we'll make this house, well, I don't know what to call it. It looks like a house. We'll make that first, and we'll have these bits just being their own thing sticking out the top. We will start with a box. So I'm going to click and drag a box, very rough. Press W for move, center it, 0, 0, 0. And I'm going to move it up roughly in place. Let's look at our right view, U for orthographic, and Alt X so we can see through. Let's move it roughly in place. Now for the parameters, we'll make the width. I'll take the width in a bit. You can see from the front, it looks like it's just a bit wider than our bridge. So that's our bridge there. Just a bit wider. How about that? Looking at this one here. Okay, the height, maybe about there. And the length, just so it roughly matches. Okay, that should be a good starting point. In fact, I'm going to make the height stop here because we're going to extrude the roof. So the height, drag it down to that line there. Because yeah, the roof we're going to extrude. Now I want some geometry along here so I can kind of make this roof. So I'm going to want a line here, a line here, a line here, and a line here. So with length segments, I'm just going to increase them to 5. That will give me enough geometry to do it. Going to make sure that I have one width segment. So that's 5 length segments and 2 width segments. Okay, back to this view on the right. I'm going to select Edit Poly again. Put an Edit Poly on top. And now we can start trying to make this kind of shape. So if I press Alt X to make it solid again, I'm going to select Edge. I don't want to double click because I only want this top line. So I'm just going to click one, hold Control, click, 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 click. Look back at my right side, press Z if you lose focus, and drag it up to about there. And if I look at that, you can see we've got the rough kind of shape. But this, we have 2 kind of front bits here. And to make that, actually, to make that, I'm going to undo what I just did there. We're not going to do it that way. Instead, we're going to select Polygon. We're going to select these top polygons. This happens quite a lot in 3D modeling. You think something might work, you'll start doing it, and then you realize, actually, I'll be much quicker and easier doing it a different way. So, I'm going to select all these top faces, holding Control just to select them, and I'm going to extrude them. Looking at the side, U for orthographic, raise them to about there, click tick. Now, we're going to work from here. Okay, we're going to need to just make a little bit more geometry before we make this roof shape. So for that I'm going to need to use a cut tool because I'm going to actually want a line going from here to here and here to here. That'll become apparent in a second, but so with the selected, if I go to Edge, then I have cut over here. Remember, if you didn't pull this out like me, it will be, you'll have to scroll down and find it, but if you did pull it out over like me, there we go, it should be here. So select cut, and we're going to want to hold it over the vertex, so it would be here. You can see that the icon kind of changes depending where you mouse over. We want it to be a little target like that. So if I click, then it lets me draw out a line. We want to hover over to this vertex, make sure it turns into that little target, the little one. Click again, then you see it wants to make another one, but to cancel that we just right click and it cancels it. And then we want to do it again, so we click here, hover over this one, make sure it's a little target, click, then right click to cancel it. And that's great, we've got those two there. I want to do the same for here, so I'm going to click there, make sure I have the little target, right click to to let go. And put that there. And right click to let go. Okay, now untick cut here. And I'm going to use vertex now. And the ones we're going to want to select, we want these outer ones here, these outer ones here, and we want these ones like that. So we want these lines here, but we don't want these two in the middle. So if you look at that, we want this line here, all of these vertexes, none of these two, there, and those ones. And if I press W and move down, we get the shape we want. Excellent. I'll just make it just a bit above, like that. And in fact, it probably turns out I'm not even going to need this line now, so I can select this line, double click on it, and then if I hold Control and press backspace, it gets rid of it. And yeah, we just don't need that anymore. So I'm just going to move them. Look at my right view, make it see-through, get it to the right point, which is about here, like so. That's looking good. Going to make it the right color, and let's call it Battleship, I don't know, House. Right, now we're going to need, I'm not going to bother with these kind of details here. You can maybe do that later if you want, but for just now I'm just going to leave it like this. So now we need to make these kind of chimney looking things, and what we can do is we can actually see that they're all kind of the same shape, so we could probably make one, make a few smaller ones and duplicate the bigger one. But firstly we need to make it, and a good starting off point for this one will be a cylinder. So if I go to create, go down to cylinder here and drag one out, rough shape, of course center it again, so move 0, 0, 0, and let's put it roughly in place. So see-through, put it to about there. I'm going to line it up so its center is kind of on the point of this little house shape, and let's get it roughly the right size. So just playing with its height and radius, and we'll make it look like, make it sit on top of that. Okay, I'm not going to need these height segments, so I'll just take them out. We're going to do the same technique now of getting rid of this top polygon and then just taking the edges out to make that shape. So I'm going to add an edit poly, select the face, press P and Z to get to the top. I'm going to delete that one, select edge, double click. You could have done all this just from the top viewpoint here. I often end up actually just using one viewport space, to be honest, but some people like to go back and forth between them. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the right side, back into this view, put it roughly in place, hold shift, bring it up, and now I'm going to go back to this viewport, middle clicking on it to set focus, scale a little bit bigger, middle click back up here to focus on it, W for move, hold shift, drag it up, back here, middle click to focus, scale, hold shift, drag that into the circle so it's the same radius, middle click back up here, W for move, and then put it up to about there. So looking at this, the top doesn't kind of go in as far as that, so I'm just going to scale it back to about there. Okay. Now if I look at the top of that, Alt X to make it non-transparent, you can see we need to cap that. So if I select border, select this border, and then hit cap, that'll close it off. And let's make it color to match. Okay, let's also call this Battleship Chimney. Okay, we're going to make instances for this one. So that means if we change our mind or need to add any more detail, whatever we do to this one, we'll do it to the rest of them. So looking at my right view, press W for move, hold shift, make a copy, let go, and it'll give us our options. We're going to click instance, and I'm just going to let it call it 001. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Okay, we're going to do it for the smaller ones. I'm going to go hold shift. I'm going to keep it as an instance, and I'm going to get a better view and perspective, and I'm just going to scale it down now. But I'm going to look here and make sure it goes to the right size. So it's probably more like about there, and then if I move it up, I think we're something like that. It's hard to tell, but we can kind of just make it up. So I'm going to make copies, hold shift, instance, that's fine. And I'm just going to middle click, hold shift. You can see if you don't middle click on the viewports, it changes all the so you see this down here, how it has a blue Z and a green Y. If I clicked, it just kind of unselects, but if you have something selected and you middle click, it switches the viewport. Okay, so holding shift, drag out the other way, this way, drag out the final one, instance again, and there we go. So you can see we're crossing our geometries here a bit. We really shouldn't do that technically, but for this, it's fine. Okay, that was nice and easy. And I think what we'll do is while we're here, let's just parent these properly. So I'm going to select the chimneys, hit our hierarchy tool, make them a base, make them children of this house. And I could unfreeze and make it a child of the base for now, but sorry, for now, I'm just going to freeze these and continue working. So select them all, freeze selection. Okay, so now we've got, God knows what this is supposed to be, but it looks like there's another little turret at the bottom. So we're going to be lazy. Let's so we're going to unfreeze all. Let's select. Whoop. I'm going to freeze this backdrop though. Freeze selection. Okay, now I'm going to highlight just the barrel and the base. I'm going to hold shift, drag it out. Let's make it an instance because it shouldn't change too much. Rotate it 180 degrees. Go to my right view, press U for orthographic, and move it roughly into place. So it looks like it's a little bit different in size, but doesn't matter too much. But we'll make it a little bit more suitable. So you can see, because I'm scaling this base, which is a child, which is a parent to the barrel, it's scaling the barrel as well. So to avoid that, what we can do is in the edit poly, select element, and then that will change the element itself as opposed to all of the children as well. Okay, and that looks about right. Okay, so let's add a cylinder and put this on top. So again, I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to select this cylinder here. Hold shift, drag it out. This time I don't want it to be an instance. I'm going to make it a copy. I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to delete this editable poly just so we get back to a cylinder. U for orthographic. I'll put it roughly in place. Alt X to be see-through. Change the radius. Just so it matches. Change the height, just so it matches. Okay. We've got kind of a sphere up here, so we could just put a sphere on top, which, you know what, that's what we'll do. So I'm going to Alt X, get that back. Let's just go create, get a sphere, drag it out. Now, I could just center it and move it into place, but I'm going to align it instead. So with the sphere selected, hit align, click on this one, yep, X, Y, Z, OK, and then move it up. And focus on it with Z. Let's look at it and make sure we make it about the right height. Well, the right radius. So I'm going to put it roughly in the middle there, over to modify, and increase the radius. Just so it's about right. It should be something like that. 32 segments, yeah, let's just leave it like that for the now. We'll make it grey. I have no idea what to call it. So I'm just going to leave it at that at the moment. Okay, and let's make whatever this is. So I'm just going to copy this cylinder. Hold shift and click and drag out. Make sure it's a copy because its size is going to be different. I'm going to rotate it roughly in place. Make it start here. Alt X to be see-through. Get the radius about right. And the height, let's take that in. Just about there. Okay. Now, if we look around, we've got, not too bad, a little battleship so far. It looks pretty good. It's all, obviously it's low poly, but it does the job. This might be okay for a game asset. Next week what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a high poly version, just so it looks really realistic. Okay, but let's add, if we look at our reference image, we can see that they're not actually portholes, they're kind of just spheres sticking out the side. So let's do that. And to do that, let's just make a copy of this sphere. Hold shift, drag down, make a copy. And let's move the first one roughly into place. Whoop, don't want to do that. So I'm going to click this base and I'm going to Alt X to make it see-through. And look at it in orthographic view. And then let's move this roughly in place. Don't worry about it. If you see on this side, it's not in it yet. I'm going to do that later. Let's just keep it about here just now and make it the right kind of size. Ooh, don't want to hit this one. Okay. Now with this selected, what we can do is use a tool called Array. And what that's going to do is it's going to let us make copies along an axis every X amount of distance. So it's kind of really handy. So we could hold shift and we could just kind of do it this way. For instance, we could do that, but better to know the array tool. So select the first sphere, and up over here we have tools, array. And what we want to do is we want to have the preview on so that we can see what will happen. And the count is how many we're going to make. So we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So change that to 13. And we're going to want it to go along the y-axis. So here, this is move, y. If I start clicking this, whoop, you can see it lets us make copies. Okay, it looks like I think that's over all of them. Whoops, undo that. I'm not sure what I did there, but click preview again. Oh, I untick preview for some reason. Okay, yeah, there we go. So 13, about 0.5 distance, looks about right to me, so I'm going to hit OK. And that will make all of them. Now we just want to move them so that they actually sit inside the hull. So I'm going to look up over here. I'm going to select this base, make it non-see-through again. And I'm actually going to look at the top view. And we're going to move them in. So if I select these outer ones first, move them so they're in, just kind of poking out the side of the hull. About that. So actually it looks, just kind of play around with it and move them in. So next two, move them in. And it looks like it's not, my ship isn't exactly symmetrical, these front and back for some reason, which shouldn't be too much of a problem, but just make sure you move them so that they poke out the side. Okay, now if I look around, that looks about right. This one's maybe a bit too far in. Okay. Now I'm going to select all of these, and we could do the same again, but I'm going to mirror them. It's going to be much easier. So if I select all of them, these ones didn't select, yeah they did. And I'm going to, so you see if I select them all, I've also selected the base, but if I just hold Alt, it will let me unclick the base. And so I've got all of these selected. What I'm going to do is hold Shift, yep, make them an instance, and then up here we've got Mirror, which will just quickly invert our selection. So I'm going to click Mirror, there we go, it's done it the right, these values are fine because it's done it how we want it. Click OK, and let's just move them roughly in place. Excellent. Okay, now let's just make sure everything's a child of the base. So I'm going to select all of these, unselect the base with Alt and click, select the chain link, click on these, then untick on the base. That's put them all under the base, which is great. The house, I want to make the house a child. If I select these ones, not that because that's a child of the here. Actually, I'm just going to make it go along this chain here. Doesn't really matter too much, just as long as everything is a child of this base here, so that when we move it, everything comes with it. So I've still got this one to do. There we go. Now if I select the base, we're all good. Thing we're going to also just quickly do is, you'll notice these polygons here are not smooth. They don't shade the same way this one does. So I press F4 to see the edges. You can see they have the same amount of polygons, but this one's shaded smooth. That's because when we made them, it hasn't calculated the normals to smooth them all out. But what we can do is with this selected, so if we select this, the bridge here, hit polygon. So I'm going to select these ones, I'm going to hit Auto Smooth for them. Select these ones, Auto Smooth for these ones, Auto Smooth, and you can kind of see what this is doing. Just kind of smooths them out. And we want them to be different smoothing groups, because those are where the lines are, where it changes. If I didn't select it where these lines are, so hold on, I'm just going to do that one here. So select them, Auto Smooth. If I didn't do them separately, what you'd end up with is, I'll show you the difference. See, if I select all of these, hit Auto Smooth, you can see they kind of tries to smooth them all out together, as opposed to having these kind of defined lines. And we'll do the same for this, the top here. So select polygon. Just gonna hit U. There we go, Auto Smooth. And here. Oops, polygon. So I could select that, hold Alt, and I could deselect them. Then Auto Smooth. And just the chimney tops are needing done. So select these ones, auto smooth, these ones, auto smooth, and these ones. Okay, that looks much better. Take here so I can look at it. Yep, that's looking pretty good for a nice low poly battleship piece. And that's definitely it for this week now. Next week what we're going to do is convert this to a high poly model. So right now it's pretty low poly. If we were putting this in a game, we would probably have these spheres actually a lot less polygons in these spheres. That's kind of a bit more detail than we needed for this. But hopefully you've gained a lot of techniques doing this, and as I say, next week we'll convert it to high poly.